Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome back to another episode of Soundout's Toy Chest. This week's clue: a goblin flew by, and a spider took him down. Which can only really mean one thing. Today I'll be taking a look at the Marvel Legends Infinite Series SpiderMan Series 2 Hobgoblin Wave. This is the second all-Spider-Man wave for Marvel Legends Infinite Series, and it contains 6 figures with a Build-A-Figure of the Phil-Urich version of Hobgoblin, which has appeared in more modern Spider-Man comics and got replaced several months before this figure was revealed. Hooray for production runs! Anyways, this wave includes Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2099, Amazing Spider-Girl, Ultimate Spider-Woman, Daredevil, and Anti-Venom. And when you get all 6, you get the Hobgoblin. Now, first of all, these 2 are listed as Web Warriors. Or Warriors of the Web, I believe, actually, is the phrase. They are not variants. You need both of them to complete Hobgoblin, yet they don't get their own distinctive names, which is really, really dumb, Hasbro. Please stop doing this. There is no reason to have character swap names on boxes. Just print different boxes. I mean, it's going to be the same ink and printing costs no matter which way you slice it, so just print new ones. They're doing this with the upcoming Hulkbuster wave, and I think even the Ultron wave. So it's really confusing, and I really wish they'd stop splitting up names like this. Just say it's Amazing Spider-Girl, just say it's Ultimate Spider-Woman, because only the fans will really notice, but the regular consumer is going to be like, oh, that's a Spider-Girl, and that's a Spider-Girl. Why are in the same box, but they're different figures? You don't need to have variants. It's not a necessity. And that out of the way, let's begin with figure number 1. Our first figure is possibly one of the most popular of the wave. This is Spider-Man. Now, what's cool about this Spider-Man is that he is a traditional Spider-Man. And while we've gotten a lot of traditional Marvel Legends Spider-Mans over the years, this one probably nailed it the best. Hasbro hasn't really done a proper classic Spidey suit, I don't think, since they got the Marvel Legends license. The closest one we got was the Amazing Spider-Man 2 one we got last year. And while I really, really like this figure, the new Spider-Man really blows it out of the water. And it's a comic design. It's the more modern suit, which means it has the more modern colors, but this is distinctly a comic-styled Spider-Man. And that's what's really cool. What's also cool is all the things he comes with. This guy has 2 extra sets of hands and 2 accessories. And one of those being an alternate head. He's got a lot of stuff to him. He also uses the new Spider body mold, so he matches well with the likes of 2099 and Superior Spider-Man. So he looks like he fits in this new Marvel Legends Spider-Man collection, which is just great. In addition to that, his articulation is standard Marvel Legends. Ball joint neck with a forward and back swivel. He's got inward and outward pivoting shoulders, which is unique to the Spider body. He's got outward shoulder movement, 360 rotation, a bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, a wrist joint with a pivot, an ab crunch, a waist joint, hips that work better than the Amazing Spider-Man 2's hips, where they move in a universal direction. You have a thigh swivel, double joint knee, and an ankle tilt with a pivot, so you can get him in all kinds of cool poses. Now, in addition to the splayed open right hand you see here, which is more of a wall crawling hand, and the web slinging hand on the left hand here, you also get a neat pair of fists that are well sculpted and painted, in addition to another web slinging hand and another wall crawling hand to match the other 2 I had him posed with earlier. But that is not all, as he comes with an alternate head. And that alternate head is a half mask open head, which Spider-Man can use for various things, especially eating the pizza he includes as an accessory. There's a reason this guy is called Pizza Pete, and that's because he comes with a piece of pizza and a mouth that's ready to eat the pizza. Which is just fantastic. It's kind of characterful accessories like these that really mean, Hasbro could make a multitude of classic Spider-Man like this. Just remake Spider-Man, but include awesome accessories like this, and I will not care, because this is something new that's being added to a design I own several times. So, props to you, Hasbro. You made a great Spider-Man here. Best Spider-Man of all time? Well, it's the best one I own. You'll have to decide if molded in webs are necessary or not, but I think it's okay with them being painted on. So let's go from one of my favorites of the wave to my least favorite. Here is Anti-Venom. This is the first figure I picked up from the wave. This was the only one I could find at the time. This guy's a little underwhelming. I think it's because the other figures just kind of are more impressive. He uses the Toxin body mold, so he is a large figure. There is that. But you're looking at all he comes with. He has no accessories. He does not look as impressive as, say, the Marvel Select figure, which I already own. He's a lot bulkier. He's kind of like Anti-Venom being a little thin. He's not as spiky, and that's probably because he is released at normal retail where kids could possibly get him. So he is a little bit more of a subdued Anti-Venom, but he does fit in the Marvel Legends scale, and it looks good with Carnage and Toxin, I guess. But overall, this figure's not too much to talk about. Standard Marvel Legends articulation all throughout. That's about it, though. There's not a whole lot to this guy, and I'm not really sure if I would have picked him up if it wasn't for the fact I wanted his leg for Hobgoblin. The Hobgoblin leg that was packed in. Let's go with that. Next, we have a figure I really do like, Amazing Spider-Girl. Now, this is Mayday Parker from the alternate universe where she is Spider-Man's daughter. I always liked the character, and I'm sure her recent appearance in Spider-Verse helped her get a Marvel Legends figure quite quickly. And she's great. She's the teenage female body mold. Props to Hasbro for having a teenage female body mold. DC never had that in any line. And it's great that we get two female, figures of Marvel Legends wave these days. I think that kind of progression in the superhero action figure medium is great, considering it's mostly been male-dominated to the point where Mattel wouldn't even make female characters in certain lines. So it's awesome that Hasbro's gotten to the point where they can feasibly sell two female characters per wave. And Spider-Girl is great. She has the awesome articulation standard of ball joint neck with the forward and back hinge, universal shoulder joints, ball-hinged elbows, wrists that rotate and bend, a upper torso ball joint. She has two universal hip joints, thigh swivels, double joint knees, a boot rotation, an ankle pivot, and a forward and back ankle tilt, which is just fantastic overall for any poses you really want to get her to, pull off. No accessories, however, but she does come with a large chunk of Hobgoblin being his wings and head, so it does make up for it there. Overall, Amazing Spider-Girl is great. Next we have Ultimate Spider-Woman, who is not a variant of Spider-Girl. In fact, she uses the same body mold, more so based on the Spider-Girl from the previous wave, the Anya version. And it's basically that figure with a new head. Same hand sculpt, pretty much similar paint scheme too, but the new head is awesome. Now this costume did get swapped out recently. I say that a lot lately. It's kind of weird. But this is Jessica Drew from the Ultimate Universe, which is a clone of Peter Parker. She got a new design recently and appeared in the Scarlet Spiders team-up comic. But at least, we got Kane here. And there is a Ben Reilly coming later, so even if we don't have their right costumes from Spider-Verse, we at least can have the Scarlet Spider trio going on when the next wave comes out. But here she is. She's got a great hair sculpt. It's probably the biggest thing to notice is that she's got a great hair sculpt. It's wavy. It's really nicely detailed. Same articulation as Spider-Girl. Overall, it's a really good figure if you know the character. It's a little bland for some people, and I can totally understand why people may not dig her as much as I do. Overall, I think she's pretty sweet. Now we have the Man Without Fear. To some people, this may seem like an odd inclusion to put Daredevil in a Spider-Man wave, but Daredevil and Spider-Man have been in close relations a lot in the comics. They've been very much connected. And Daredevil, the original Marvel Legends Daredevil, was released in Spider-Man Classics back during the Toy Biz era, so it's kind of a shout-out to that, which is pretty neat. Plus, Daredevil got a Netflix series. It's also why this is the hardest figure to get in the wave. You'll think you're blind because you'll never see this figure in stores. I never did, and my dad bought me one off eBay so that I could complete my Hobgoblin. And I really don't want to know what he spent on it, but I'm sure he got a good deal. Hopefully. Anyways, Daredevil's a good figure. He's really solid, looks really good. His baton things aren't too stable, they're quite flimsy. And actually I'm considering swapping in Hellcat since they're the same piece. I like the fact they can store in his holster, though. That's a pretty big plus. And the fact he has accessories at all is pretty good for this wave, too. And he comes with the Hobgoblin's arm and Pumpkin Bomb, so that's pretty sweet. Overall, I gotta say, Daredevil's a good figure, but the $60 he's going for sometimes on Amazon just isn't worth it. He is a $20 action figure, but you get him for $30 or so, it's probably not too bad. He is harder to find, but if you find him, he's definitely worth getting. But there's one more figure left, who's probably my favorite of the wave. Here is SpiderMan 2099. Probably my favorite alternate Spider-Man out there. Spider-Man 2099 is awesome. I'm currently reading his original run on the series, plus he has a comic that, he's been in modern times lately, and he got to participate in Spider-Verse pretty heavily, as well as having a bunch of crossovers with the Superior Spider-Man. 2099 is awesome. He's a different kind of Spider-Man. He's not the standard, Spider-Man type. Miguel O'Hara's not necessarily a nice guy. He's kind of a jerk to people. He's not as responsible as Peter Parker is, and that kind of makes him a lot more interesting as a character. But also his costume design is great. Being the blue with the red accents and the nice skull on his chest. He's really, really cool looking. And when they showed this figure off at Comic-Con last year, I was super excited. Because I have always wanted a figure of Spider-Man 2099, and there just hasn't been any. There was a Marvel Legends one way back, there was a Spider-Man Classics one, but they're so hard to get because they're exclusives to stores that I just never had seen the possibility of getting one. Even the Marvel Universe one was getting hard to get. And then he appeared in Ultimate Spider-Man, the TV show, and now he's got all these figures, and it's awesome. He's got a Titan Hero Series figure, he's got figures in the Web Warriors line, he's got his own web, slinger roleplay toy. It's awesome how much love 2099 is getting these days, and I'm really glad to see it. And this is a great representation of the character. It's a fantastic figure. He's in metallic blue, which is just awesome. And he uses the new spider mold, so he's quite articulated, which is great. Now, overall, this guy is relatively easy to find compared to, Daredevil, but he's not as easy to find as, say, Spider-Girl. He's one of the harder, more uncommon figures, but I have seen him in stores unlike others. Now, I got mine off Amazon because I lucked out and got him for retail price, and naturally, with me being so excited for this figure, I just had to get him. Also, what's kind of cool is that while he has the cape, which is his classic comic appearance look, you can also remove the cape to give him a more of a Ultimate Spider-Man TV series appearance, where for some reason he didn't have his web cape. His glider cape was missing there. And I think one of the video games also excluded it, at least for a costume or something. But the idea is that you can have 2099 without the cape, as it just simple peg plugs on, so you can represent him in all forms, which is great. It's an all-around fantastic figure, and it is the best 2099 action figure that we have ever gotten, and probably will ever get. But we still have a Build-A-Figure to talk about. Here is the Hobgoblin. The legs came with Spider-Man and Anti-Venom, the arms came with Daredevil and 2099, the sword came with 2099, this pumpkin bomb came with Daredevil, the wings and head came with Spider-Girl, and the torso came with Spider-Woman. Now, this Hobgoblin is a great costume design. I love the look of this thing. It emulates the original Hobgoblin, but updates it for a modern standard. And you can easily see how this guy evolved to become the Goblin Knight. Just naturally, the progression of his costume with it already having chainmail and such. Plus the sword. This really shows how cool this is. Now, like I said, he has become Goblin Knight, and the original Hobgoblin has gone back to being Hobgoblin. So it's a little outdated, but I'm really glad a figure of this got made, and I don't think this guy could have been sold on his own. Considering what has to go into his wings and his sword, he would be too expensive as a single figure. And I'm so glad he's not a Comic-Con exclusive, because that would be really tricky to get. So I think making him a Build-A-Figure, even though he's not even taller than, say, Anti-Venom, is okay, because he's a figure we wouldn't have normally gotten as a single release, and I'm glad to have him. His articulation is all new too. He doesn't use any existing parts, which also probably adds to the fact that he needs to be a Build-A-Figure. Anyways, his articulation is as follows. He's got a ball joint neck. It's a little restricted by his hood, though. I will say that. He's got outward shoulder movement, 360 shoulders, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, wrist swivel, wrist pivot, ab crunch, waist rotation, universal hip joints, thigh swivels, double joint knees, ankle forward and back pivot, and ankle tilt. So he's got all the articulation of your standard Marvel Legends, unlike Thanos, who was missing a few joints. And he has a really cool flame sword, which I want to talk about because Hasbro did something really clever with their Superior Spider-Man. For those of you who have read Superior Spider-Man, you may know that there was a moment where Superior Spider-Man picked up Hobgoblin's sword, and the coolest part is that Hasbro managed to plan this out in advance. Superior Spider-Man came with holding hands for nothing. He didn't have any accessories to hold. And when I saw, and I remembered, that he had holding hands, I was like, hey, wonder if you can hold Hobgoblin's sword. And it's actually a perfect fit. So honestly, I think this was intentional, and that's really great planning on Hasbro's part. These two work as companion pieces now, which is really cool for display. But the fact that the hands fit the sword, that's awesome. That's really, really awesome. What's also cool is you do get a pumpkin bomb here. You can hold it approximately well, but if you bump it, it will fall out, so be careful of that. I typically just flip it around so that he's holding onto the flame with his fingers. That usually holds it in place better. It's a neat inclusion. I'm not really remembering any time he used pumpkin bombs all that much. This Hobgoblin liked to use the sword more, but it is a neat inclusion. What was kind of odd, though, is that this arm came with the sword in 2099, but it's not designed to hold the sword. And then this arm came with the pumpkin bomb, but wasn't designed to hold the pumpkin bomb. So it was kind of backwards on the accessories. But I think because 2099 didn't have any accessories, they put the sword in to balance out the cost, while Daredevil had his little baton, so they put the smaller pumpkin bomb in. Overall, it's cool that a Build-A-Figure gets accessories. That doesn't happen a lot. It really doesn't, and I'm glad to see it. Plus, speaking of accessories, what's really cool is if you want to display him without his sword, and you want to make sure you're accurate, they give you an extra handle piece to plug into his backpack to show that the sword is stored away. Overall, this wave impresses the heck out of me. I really, really do enjoy owning this wave. The only one I really wasn't digging was Anti-Venom, but even then he's still a solid figure. This is a really solid wave of Marvel Legends. All the figures fit in the same line. There's no mixture of movie and comic. It's all comic-based. It's all Spider-Man related. I really do like these kind of waves because I could just jump into this wave and be like, yeah, I want all of them. No, I don't have to buy a figure I don't necessarily want to get a Build-A-Figure piece. I can just buy the whole wave, which is what I'm going to do with the Rhino wave as well, because that's looking quite fantastic. It's the Hulkbuster and Ultron waves I'm not too pleased with. I want the Hulkbuster for my Age of Ultron collection. I want the War Machine for the same thing, but I don't really need anybody else in that wave, because I'm not collecting comic-style Avengers, which is what's a little frustrating. On top of that, the Ultron thing is, if I'm collecting movie Marvel figures, then I only want Ant-Man and Ultron. I don't want anybody else. So, those are up in the air for me, but definitely that Rhino wave. New Rhino, new Kraven, a chameleon with alternate heads, a friggin' white tiger to complete the Ultimate Spider-Man TV show team. I am sold on that set. You know, Ben Reilly, Scarlet Spider. Even better. So anyways, that set's going to be great, and that will come out whenever it does, and I will review it once I have a whole set, just like I did here. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this review overall. I can definitely recommend these figures. If you're talking about single figures, though, Pizza Pete 2099 are the best by far. I just love those two figures so much. But yes, this wave is definitely worth it for Spider-Man fans. So, until next time, be sure to subscribe to Soundout 12, as every Monday is Model Kit Monday, every Thursday is Soundout's Toy Chest, and every Saturday is the Soundout Review. And, of course, next week we have a new Soundout's Toy Chest on Thursday, and here is your clue. Tiger, tiger, walking by. Now you'll have to figure out what that means, and if you have an idea, let me know in the comments below. But if you don't, then just stay tuned for next Thursday where you see what that is. Also, be sure to check out HeroTaku.com for all your Marvel Comics news and more, including, you know, interviews with Marvel Comics writers on occasions. We have several interviews that go up on the site with different people from the community that are involved with superheroes and related materials. So always check those out. And until next time, I just want to leave you with one awesome final image for this review. The Spider-Verse continues to expand. How many more Spider-Men will we have by the end of the year? It's only a matter of time before we get a Spider-Man Noir and Spider-Ham, right? And a Japanese Spider-Man, and a Spider-Monkey, and a Spider-Anything, really, Hasbro? Just keep making these guys. I will continue buying them. Till next time, it's not saying goodbye.